Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Jason Lubell, American entrepreneur, said this: America does not need to see the tax returns of a billionaire who became a public servant. America needs to see the tax returns of public servants who became millionaires while being public servants. Amen. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. We need a real good patriot to call in with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you on this first Monday of March the 2nd, and it's 28 degrees outside. Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with literally all the tires you need for safe driving on any vehicle. Get a hold of them today. Don't forget, too, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Talking about friends, let's go to the phone line right now and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning again to you, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, buddy. And right now, let's go to the weather forecast brought to you by K&R Rental. And, of course, Roger and the crew, they get there early in the morning and open the doors up at 7 o'clock at 256 South, 600 West of Heyburn. It's right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them. They have got the best, all the best tools and equipment for whatever you need for long or short-term rentals. So you just get a hold of them today, please. And if you're not sure what you need to finish that task, just give them a call, 678-3122. K&R Rental in Heyburn. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
We're going to be on a warming trend this week, considering we got some snow over the weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting sunny skies today. A little bit of a breeze out of the west at about 15 miles an hour, gusts as high as 25 miles an hour, looking at a high of 44. Tonight, mostly clear skies, a low of 27. Tomorrow, partly sunny and 50, expecting an overnight low of 31. Then the warming trend starts. By Wednesday, mostly sunny skies, 57. Looks like sunny skies and 60 for Thursday. Then we're going to be rolling in the upper 50s to low 60s for Friday and through the weekend. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Wow, I love it. Hey, thank you very much, Gina. And the weather brought to you by K&R Rental. 256 South, 600 West of Heyburn. Like I said, they're right there on the Burley-Paul Highway, and they've got the long and short-term rental on the equipment you need. Get a hold of them today, 678-3122. K&R Rental. Really good people. I want to thank everybody for being at Lunch Bunch last Thursday. We had a real nice group, and I want to say thank you very much to those that were there. I understand there were some that were under the weather and couldn't be there. I think one that comes to mind, Jerry Voss. Jerry, if you're listening this morning, our thoughts and prayers go with you and hope that you're healing up real fast. But it was also a real good treat to see Gene Stelly come back to Lunch Bunch last Thursday. and there were others that were traveling, others that were out of the area, and we just want to say thank you to all of our lunch bunchers. Don't forget Daryl's Cleaners. Oh no, I got to get in there with it. They're not going to want to see everything I drag in there. We've got a whole bunch of clothes to take in there at Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And don't forget the best of dry cleaning, and also if you don't have time to do your washing, they will wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes. Hey, you better get in there at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. They are the best at what they do. I hope you had a great weekend. We did, and it was kind of good to get back in the saddle, staying here to home, getting things done, and your calls are welcome and appreciated at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to mention last week's Lunch Bunch and the people over at Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Michelle and Thomas and everybody, they are so doggone nice and so courteous and helpful. You're going to love when you go in there with your family and friends. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, America's Diner. Yep, Deanne had it again. Those strawberry crepes, they are delicious. She loves them. That's just one of the many, many, many choices on the menu. I urge you to stop in and see them today. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Zeb. Welcome back. There's been a rumor out that you were coming out of rodeo retirement and you were going to ride a Brahma bull. Is there any truth to that?
No, my common sense at my older age absolutely has not failed me. I would never think of anything so stupid as to do that. No, I am back, and it's good to be back and talking to folks like you, Adrian, and I certainly hope all is well with you.
I hope you had a great time.
I did.
Whatever you did. So, anyway, no, Sharon did a great job, and I got a chance to call in a couple times while she was on the air. But
good.
I'll tell you, Zeb, I can't believe how despicable the Democrats and the national media are to take advantage of a potential crisis and just ram it down our throats and cause this. It's always the politics of fear. That's the way they work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they want to get rid of Trump any which way they can. So they're going to take this thing. And from what we can tell, the only people that are really affected by this are people that are already having underlying health issues that this has just pushed them over the edge. And it's not affecting young kids. But we're just seeing how despicable the mainstream media and the Democratic Party, of course they're one and the same, are how sick these people are to push this disease out in the open like this, and yet we're finding Trump has, done everything he can to stop these flights from China and so forth. Obviously, the stock market has overreacted, but as far as the number of deaths, it's really less than the flu.
We
can tell at this point.
Let me jump in and say this. You've hit on a very key point. Between 30 and 60,000 people here in this country die every year because of the flu. Right now, as of this morning as I speak, unless something has happened in the last 10 minutes, the coronavirus has had, in this country, the United States, two. And I'm not belittling or trying to diminish the value of fighting this coronavirus and trying to make sure that we're all hands on deck and understand with all the information necessary to make sure that it doesn't spread. But I find it a little bit humorous almost, not with a smile, but a wry smile, if you will, that we would consider 2 deaths in the same comparison as the flu that we accept readily every year with 30 to 60,000 deaths. It doesn't make sense.
Well, no, nothing makes sense when it comes to the Democrats and the mainstream media. It's just a matter of they hate Trump so bad they're going to do anything they can to get rid of him, and this is just as part of their ploy.
I agree with that.
And,
I agree.
But we see that, the whole thing, China getting into the World Trade Organization, Nike and Apple and so forth, having all their phones being made by slave labor over there. And so we see this was, they might reconsider what the heck's going on with their businesses, but they're so dang greedy. They want to just get everything done cheap. Their greed and so forth. But we had zero trade imbalance with China before the World Trade Organization. So allowing them to get in, and then we've had over $500 billion deficit with China every year, and Trump is helping with that, but it's still a big figure, and for China to release this thing, perhaps to try to get rid of Trump, they hate Trump, Zeb, as you well know. What they consider the U.S., their number one enemy. So if they can tank the stock market and ruin our economy and try to get rid of Trump, of course, the Democrats and the media here are going to help it along. So,
well, I got to run, but I will tell you, I think you've touched on some very good talking points that I certainly hope are investigated. Adrian, thank you. God bless you for your kind thoughts, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, sir.
I'm welcome back, and I hope you're all rested and ready to go.
I am.
And back in the saddle.
All right, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Some of the things he said, and I want to reiterate a point that was made last week on the program. I did not say, somebody said after the program, well, you said that this was released on purpose, this virus. No, I said speculatively it could be a happening as to what did happen. And Adrian just solidified what I just basically said a minute ago. There are so many unanswered questions as to how this coronavirus has been leaked, if you will, into society and what's happened. We're going to be talking a little bit later on this morning to a gentleman that's been on my program many, many times, Curtis Ellis, policy director for America First. And we're going to be talking about this and the politics of this situation. So calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Literally all of your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. I mean all. They've got everything and the best of people to serve you. They've been working in this area, serving you for almost 7 decades. Wow. Double wow, wow. Ramsey Heating and Electric, the best, and they open the doors at 7:30 in the morning till 5 Monday through Friday. Number to call, 678-0459, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Really nice people. Want to also give a great big shout out to Dino Septic Service. Somebody will say, well, Dino Septic Service, what do they do? Well, I'll tell you what, they take care of problems that you and I don't want to handle. We don't want to be out there pumping a septic tank. No. And they take care of all the sewer and sink drain line cleaning and septic inspections, liquid waste removal. They do it all, and they really serve you. Fast, fair, friendly service. All you need to do to call Dino Septic Service is call 436-6526 or 678-1638. As I said, the best of service to you with a big truck that pulls in your yard, smells cargo on the way. Don't forget Dino's Septic Service. Really good people. Let's back up just a couple of steps. Tomorrow is the Democrats' Super Tuesday. And there's, 9 states that are going to have their voting tomorrow in the primary. And it looks like the Democratic Party, as our dear friend Dr. Gerard Lamero had anticipated and prognosticated, is falling apart at the seams. Now, we're going to find out about whether Biden can make a comeback. We're going to find out whether Bloomberg can crawl up on the shelf and make his voice heard. And we're going to find out if Warren's going to stay in the race. Now, the others, Buttigieg is gone. Buttigieg is gone, and I kind of wonder if he didn't bow out with a little arm twisting and a little pressure by perhaps the Biden people, with a promise that if things go better through Super Tuesday for Joe Biden, oh yes, little Pete, there will be a place for you in our administration as one of the high mucky mucks. I just wonder if there wasn't a little bit of political arm twisting there. So here we go. It's Bloomberg, basically. Biden trying to, it's like a horse race right now. They're coming around the home stretch for Super Tuesday. And Biden just won South Carolina, and he thinks he's in the lead and going to make a great big kind of a swamping type victory over the next day or so with Super Tuesday. Bloomberg, anybody's guess. Mini Mike, I have no idea what he's going to do. And then you have, of course, Bernie Sanders that is leading the pack. And that should put us all into a major sweat. A socialist, communist in this country, the United States of America, leading right now with the polls and with his past efforts to possibly win the nomination to be the Democrats' nominee for the President of the United States. Honestly, think about that. All that our forefathers gave for this country and its freedoms and its Constitution and its values. And now, 200 plus years, we are thinking seriously in this country of putting in a socialist communist that would absolutely destroy the fabric of America? God help us all. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
I say that every day, sir. God help us.
Amen.
The direction we're going.
Amen.
We need help.
Amen.
Hey, just looking, I've done a little research. I seen a deal the other day, and this year our virus is, oh shoot, come on, phone, wake up, is the corona. But what was it 2 years ago?
Well, we've seen SARS and others.
Ebola.
Yeah.
SARS was in 2004 when it come out.
Right.
And swine flu in 2010 when it come out.
Right.
MERS in 2012. Ebola first emerged in 2014 and then back again in 2018.
Wait a minute. Stop right there, Doug. And Wheels, there's a little feedback here. When you talk about the Ebola scare, of which we all should be concerned about, and Ebola is still a very devastating and deadly disease. But there were all the fears like, oh my gosh, it's going to come to America and we're all going to die and everything. And our health officials absolutely put up a line of defense and a line of information, and they attacked it, and nobody really has a concern about it here today. But it's always a new cookie in the bag, whether it's SARS, whether it's Ebola, whatever. Now it's the coronavirus.
Exactly. And what happened in those years? Elections.
Yeah.
It seems like every 2 years there comes up a scare. So, I mean, I personally think the mainstream media and the Democrats are pouring gasoline on this and fanning it.
Well, Doug, it stands to reason that they don't have another leg to stand on. I mean, they went after Trump with the Mueller report and collusion with Russia, and then they went after him on various and sundry other issues, and then they tried to get him impeached over the talking with Ukrainian president. I mean, the list goes on and on. So if you're drawing feathers out of the stack and you're going to try to make a pile, they're still grabbing at straws, Doug.
They are. And every straw they grab at is a short straw, and it comes up short. I mean, if President Trump had any unpaid parking tickets, anything in his past, they would have found it by now.
Yeah.
But just think of this. The last 3 years we've heard Russia. Now the Democrats are just about to elect a socialist to lead their party.
Scary, isn't it?
It is. Think about it.
Yeah. I never thought in my lifetime, and I'm an old man, but I never thought that we would have that kind of voice power by the liberal left, the younger generation, the millennials that are storming behind Bernie Sanders. I never thought our education system would absolutely leave us high and dry with the aspects of taking on socialism and communism as the new mantra for America. I never thought that would happen.
I know it, and we just stood by and let the liberals take over the education system. When the government runs an education system, the government teaches the kids what the government wants them to know.
You got it. Hey, listen, I don't want to be rude, but you probably heard the moo of the cow. 2 calls coming in. I got cookies to give away, but I want to say something to you. I want to say how nice it was for what you did at Lunch Bunch last week. Thank you very much for all your kindness.
Oh, I didn't do it for recognition. I done it because she's a sweet, sweet lady, and she deserves some kindness turned her way.
Well, that was very nice of you, and God bless you. Quickly with the seniors, Doug?
Let's support them. You know, they made this country what it is today, and now they're needing our help. They took care of us when we were younger. It is time for us to take care of them.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Caller, I'll be right there. I got to tell everybody about Barry Equipment and Rental Sales, Service, and Parts. Do not forget they have 3 locations to serve you. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin. Hello, Eli. And the Napa location. And they've got all the equipment for the lifting and the digging and the pushing and the carrying and everything. They've got the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators, all the different Bobcats. They've got it all for you. I urge you to get a hold of them today, Barry Equipment and Rental in Burley and Twin Falls and Napa, and they've got the equipment that can get the job done. Barry Equipment and Rental. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I turned on the radio and I caught you before I lost reception on it, but you brought up a subject that I was thinking about. Years ago, someone made the statement that the Democratic Party will not let any good crisis go unseen, whether it's man-made or not.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys touched on it or not, but whenever there's a big election or something important going on, there's always seems to be a virus or some medical emergency that's going to wipe out the human race. And I'm not trying to denigrate the coronavirus. I'm not at all. It's what I'm saying is, if we all get inoculated, if we all get our vaccinations, and if we take care of the United States and our people and keep our borders closed, the world can have its problems, and they won't affect us as bad. They will affect us, but not as bad. And it seems like every time there's something going on with Trump, there's always something on the side to distract from it, which sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's not, but that's the way I'm seeing this. And I'm not too worried about it. However, I do wash my hands and everything else when I use a restroom or when I've been doing things with it that might be dirty. But anyway, I digress.
No, I appreciate your call, and you laid it out very succinctly. I think that absolutely we should all be concerned. Absolutely we should all be very caring and worrying about different things that might help promote this dangerous virus, and we've got to make sure that we don't promote it in any way, shape, or form. But to sit down and wring our hands in despair and say that the end is near, I'm not at that stage at all.
Well, if a person in their life, all they do is focus on negativity, negative is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I learned this very, very, very hard way multiple times in my life. You got to take what the Lord gives you. You got to take the blessings every day. And even though it doesn't look like a blessing, it is. You just got to do it every day. Just look for the better things in life.
I agree.
Concentrate on the woes and worries.
You know, I appreciate you and your calls and your comments. Riley, God bless you, man. Drive safe, please.
Yep, I'll see you. Talk to you later.
All right, sir. Thank you. Wheels, I did not understand. Is there another call waiting?
No, you're okay, sir.
Okay, buddy.
I just had forgotten I had did the couch.
Well, you bumped her twice with the pitchfork, and she did bellow. There you go. Hey, I've got to do a cookie giveaway right now, and our cookies are being given away by Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. Oh, ho, ho, what a great place to go eat. What a fantastic bakery with all the different desserts, the pies, the cookies, you name it. Oh, my goodness sakes, call them and order whatever you need today at 436-0354. Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. Here's the question if you want to win a dozen cookies, and all you have to do is just call them and let them know when you're going to be in there. And the question is, who was the country singer that played Burt Reynolds' buddy in Smokey and the Bandit? That's an easy one. Who was the country singer that played Burt Reynolds' buddy in the movie Smokey and the Bandit? First person to give me a call and answer that correctly, they will win the dozen cookies at Sophie's Chatterbox. And the number to call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Jerry Reed.
Who is this?
Jim Roberts.
Jim Roberts. Where are you calling from, Jim?
Driving truck, hauling sugar beets.
Well, Jim, you're the lucky winner, and all you got to do is get a hold of Sophie's Chatterbox. Let them know when you're going to be by for your cookies. Jerry Reed is the right answer. Jim, God bless you, man. Drive safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Jim Roberts, and he's out there up and down the highway, and it is correct. Jerry Reed. Couldn't have found anybody better to play that part. I mean, him and that great big basset hound. It was funny. I got a kick out of it. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Did you hear what happened to Bloomberg this weekend at I believe it was a black Baptist church? And he was asked to come and speak, or else his handlers tried to make the deal to have him go and speak at this church. Irregardless of that, he gets up at the pulpit, and many of the black in the church, they turned their back on him. Yeah, it was very noticeable. Members of the choir, right behind him, they turned their back on Bloomberg. And then out in the congregation, people turned their back on Bloomberg. It was not exactly as he and his so-called handlers had planned, that he could make some inroads with the stoppage of what he said originally thought was a great idea, and it was stop and frisk in New York City, and then, of course, coming back later and apologizing because he wants the black vote. But they weren't very forgiving, and they turned their back on him at that church. Are you listening to the absolute garbage? I mean, absolute garbage that Bernie Sanders is espousing and trying to promote. I mean, come on, folks. You need to be sitting down with your millennial age children. You need to be telling them exactly the dangers of this man and what he's trying to promote. He came out over the last couple of days and said that he would like to see, if he's elected as president, inner city youth develop their own businesses by selling marijuana in the inner city. Think about that, please. Of all the things in this country that our youth can get involved in, but trying to promote drug usage and promote marijuana sales, that'd be an enterprising business for all of you, in the inner city, while you can develop your own great business selling marijuana. What's with this lunacy? Somebody please help me on this. It's destroying every thread of decency in our country. And you talk about an Obama administration transforming America. My goodness, look what's going on. And I still, every day, Deanna and I talk about this every single day we watch the news early in the morning. How in the world can America and maybe the millennials, the liberal loon left, etc., how can they be sitting down and supporting with vast numbers, a communist, socialist, Bernie Sanders to be the president of the United States? How? Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I think the question I've got to you, the audience, and I've talked to numerous people over the last couple of days since last Thursday's program. How concerned, worried, or afraid, whatever word you want to insert there, are you over the coronavirus? How concerned are you? Now, I know the people that have some other issues that might lower their fight against the virus, heart disease, other things, may be more susceptible to the coronavirus. But most of the people that have contracted it have considered it to be a form of the flu, with feeling kind of down, a cough, a sneeze, a couple of days later feeling much better, just comparable to like flu symptoms and tactics. But are you as concerned as some are that we need to cancel everything? We need to stop all the schools. We got to stop all the gatherings. Nobody go to church. Nobody shake hands. Nobody go to the grocery store. Whoa! We're talking about a complete shutdown in our society over a virus that has not shown the signs of being as invasive as it has over in China, where they let it go for literally a couple of years. How concerned are you about the coronavirus? Give me a call. I'd like to hear what you have to say. While I'm waiting for your call, boy, this next Saturday there is going to be one of the premier bull sales anywhere in the United States, right here in the Burley area at the Burley Auction Yard, Saturday, March 7th at 1 p.m. It's the 25th annual bull sale for the Sheridan Ranch, Cordell and Patty Sheridan. I mean, we're talking about one of the West's most outstanding offerings of yearlings and coming 2-year-old Gelbvieh, Angus, and Balancer bulls. And I mean, Cordell and Patty Sheridan put their heart and soul, blood, sweat, and tears into developing this sale into one of the biggest and the best. 25th annual bull sale. As I said, it's going to be at the Burley Auction Yard this Saturday at 1 p.m. Don't miss it. The best from Sheridan Ranch and Cordell and Patty Sheridan. Put that on your calendar. 1 o'clock this coming Saturday, and it is going to be a dandy bull sale. Free delivery up to 300 miles. Don't you miss it. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Are you concerned about the coronavirus? Now, here's part of the lunacy. Part of the lunacy that's going on within the left wing of politics today. I heard this, and at first I scoffed at it, and I thought, no, it couldn't be. But then I did some research and found out it did happen, that when President Trump was having that press conference on the coronavirus last week, and behind him he had numerous doctors, and he had Vice President Pence was standing there, and after it was over, the next day, I heard some rumblings, and then I checked into it with some of my people back in New York that I deal with, and Washington, D.C., that handle a lot of these news stories, and I found out it was validated that the left was all upset. Now, listen closely to this. The left loons were all upset and screaming about how it was a racist press conference. What? That perked my ears up. Yeah, here's the deal. The left said that on television, with all those people standing up there behind President Trump at the podium, it was a racist press conference because there was only one person that wasn't white. Let that sink in for a minute. Here they were, the nation's leading healthcare people, that were talking about the coronavirus, the do's and the don'ts and what should be done, how to handle it, etc. And the left goes zonkers again and turns it into a racist and racial deal, saying, well, it wasn't diversified enough. There was only one person that was up there that wasn't white. This proves the stupidity, the absolute stupidity on the left. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. You know, all this thing is propaganda. I'm so sick of propaganda. I about can't stand it. This whole election deal is nothing but propaganda clear across the board. Lies, 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 more lies, on top of lies, on top of lies, on top of lies.
Well, I agree with you. And by the way, Jerry, while I have you on the phone, how are you feeling, my dear friend?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm just not getting very far along on getting out of here. I don't know when I will. It'll be when I do, I guess.
Well, I want you to know that our prayers and thoughts are with you, and I hope that's real soon.
Yeah. But I'm so tired of this propaganda, I just about can't stand it. You listen to the news and watch a TV show, and all you get is Democratic propaganda.
Yeah.
You know it's all lies. You know they don't ever tell the truth. But they do. It's been so long since I've heard them say something that was accurate. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I can feel your pain, believe me, Jerry, and I certainly want to extend from Deanna and I and all the lunch munchers that our prayers are with you, my dear friend, and thank you for taking the time and the opportunity to call this morning. Thank you so much.
You bet. Have a great day. May the Lord bless.
All right, sir. And I certainly hope that's true in your case, too. Thank you so much. Really good guy, a friend of our lunch bunch, and Jerry Voss, we wish him the very best and hope that he gets better in a quick order. Wheels, did I hear the cow in the background a moment ago, or am I hearing cows for some reason?
No, you're okay, sir, if you want to do a commercial or two.
No, I've got to do the weather, but I'll take a call if there's one there.
No, you're perfectly
fine. All right. Thanks, buddy. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Before I go to the weather, I got to plant this seed with you to show you, in my opinion, how absolutely dumb people in politics are becoming. In the state of California, now their legislature is considering passing a bill that would pay, let me say that word again, pay meth users, addicts, to try and stay off of the drug. What? This is what's happening in this country. Common sense has been thrown out the window or thrown down the toilet or wherever. But can you honestly believe they're considering giving somebody a check and saying, "Oh, please be a good boy, please be a good girl, don't use that anymore. Here's a check, and we'll pay you to stay off of the drugs." What in the world? Pay them for personal responsibility? The world's nuts. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Time to do the weather and then take some more of your calls. Come on, give me a jingle. Don't forget our weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And oh my goodness, they really care about your hearing health. I urge you to give them a call today if you've noticed a diminishment in your hearing, and let them serve you. Boy, hearing loss affects every person differently, so please pick up the phone and call the number 312-0957. 312-0957. They're located right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room, and that's, of course, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
We're going to to be on a warming trend this week, considering we got some snow over the weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting sunny skies today. A little bit of a breeze out of the west at about 15 miles an hour, gusts as high as 25 miles an hour, looking at a high of 44. Tonight, mostly clear skies, low of 27. Tomorrow, partly sunny and 50, expecting an overnight low of 31. Then the warming trend starts. By Wednesday, mostly sunny skies, 57. Looks like sunny skies and 60 for Thursday. Then we're going to be rolling in the upper 50s to low 60s for Friday and through the weekend. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Gina. Good morning to you. And, boy, that weather forecast sounds pretty good. Don't forget our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And if you've noticed a diminishment or a decline in your hearing, please call them for a hearing screening. Number to call, 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. All right, give me a call. Don't forget, now, here's the situation for this morning at 10:30 for the Idaho Legislative Update. Let me jump in here for a minute. I talked to Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, earlier this morning, much earlier this morning, and there is a little bit of a problem with a big vote that all the people that are on this program, whether it's Scott or whether it's Kelly Anthon or Fred Wood, all of them are going to be involved in voting. So we're kind of playing a spin the wheel. And Scott's going to try to find some people to call in, and we might have a couple of people calling in, and then they'll run across the hall and go in and vote and then come back again. So that's going to be at 10:30 for the Idaho Legislative Update, sponsored by Handy Truck Lines. And for me to sit here and say, well, so-and-so is going to be on the program this morning, I can't do that because I don't know. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Have you really noticed Joe Biden's mind and his speech and his faux pas and all of the gaffes and everything that he's made? Now, I understand, believe me, that when you're approached by various people in the media, various networks, etc., you can get a little discombobulated and not really remember perhaps the interviewer's name. There's a trick to that, to put it on literally on ink pen on the back of your hand, so that if you're visiting with somebody named Carol or somebody named Ben or whatever, you can look down and say, "Thank you, Ben, I appreciate that." But it seems like the gaffes created by Joe Biden have been far-reaching and many, many more of recent. And this past weekend, Fox News' Chris Wallace was interviewing Joe Biden, and one of the questions that came up was about Joe Biden's mental capacity and whether or not he is really able to be the president. And Biden blew it again when he said at the end of his answer, "All right, Chuck, thank you very much." However, it wasn't Chuck that was doing the interviewing. It was Fox News' Chris Wallace. There have been all kinds of mistakes. There has been numerous occasions where he's got up to speak and has said, "Boy, it's nice to be here in Indiana," when he's in Iowa. Or mentioning something else politically that is completely wrong. Giving dates, giving instances, or historical facts that didn't cut the cake. Biden is not young. He's a 78, I believe. And Bernie is not young. And Bernie also right there at that threshold of almost tipping into the 80s. Bernie, of course, with a heart attack. Bernie, of course, being a socialist, communist representative of his beliefs. So it leads me to believe that there's trouble in River City in the Democratic Party. I have asked many, many times for Democrats in the state of Idaho or locally to come on this program and talk about their platform, talk about their so-called nominees that may take over the presidency or try to. None of them will talk on this show. And besides being cowards, they really don't have much to offer. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
I wanted to jump back to that thing you were talking about with the government going to pay these meth addicts to stay clean. You said it didn't make sense. No, it makes perfect sense.
Really?
They're already paying every lazy bum to sit on their desk and not get a job, but pay for their house, pay for their food, their education, their health care. Why wouldn't they pay a meth addict?
Well, I hope you're saying that in a facetious manner, and I believe you are, but your point is well taken.
The point there that I was trying to make was nothing that the government does ever makes sense.
What good? I'm glad you called. Hang on, we can't talk over each other. Sir, we can't talk over each other. Hang on just a minute. We got a connection where I don't know exactly when you're finished, and it kind of fuzzes over a little bit, so stand by. But the government, you make a very good point. The government is involved in Looney Tunes of paying and doing things that make no sense whatsoever. And it goes along with what you said. We're giving welfare recipients all the money, time, food, etc. We're providing for them. We're not creating any self-responsibility whatsoever. And now to pay meth addicts is just one more of the complete glitches that's in the political system. Go ahead, please.
Right. That's what I was basically saying is anytime the government gets involved and starts dictating what we do with either free enterprise or personal responsibility, it never pans out like they're thinking or their way of thinking it should. It usually cripples and stifles everything, makes it stagnant. It never progresses. If anything, it regresses and goes back to a more primitive state.
Absolutely. As a taxpayer, I'm sure you feel the same way I do. You pay your taxes, you go to work, you pay your bills, you try to make ends meet, you try to put a little money away so that you can maybe enjoy a little bit more out of life with your family, maybe take a little bit of a vacation if you can afford the high price of gas and everything. And then you hear this Looney Tunes about paying meth addicts to further their habit. This is absolutely nuts.
Well, that's the reason they're addicts. It's like telling an alcoholic that they can have a drink in moderation. They don't have moderation. That's why they can't do that. That's why they're addicted.
Well,
there is no moderation. You cannot control it by throwing money at it. That's not going to solve everything.
Well, and to go another step further, as you are, I'm sure, aware that many on the Democratic side of the aisle, and I've got to hurry because I've got a commercial before we leave the air this hour, but many on the Democratic side of the aisle want to provide a check just to be here and live in this country to those that they consider, oh, well, they can't get a job. Oh, well, they can't support their family. So maybe we should go ahead and give them a wage and a living check of $1,000 or $1,500 a month, and we, the taxpayers, pay for that also.
Well, that's the kicker right there, is we the taxpayers. And I honestly believe, I know that there's been callers before that have said it, if you was to go back to when you either had to own property or have a job to have a voice, that would get rid of the Democratic Party altogether.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do. I haven't heard you call before, but I want to tell you, with your common sense, call back more often, sir. I hate to cut you off, but you can tell by your wristwatch that I got to run, but thank you very much.
You betcha.
God bless you. Hey, don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. And I don't care if you live in town. I don't care if you live out in the country. I don't care if you need help out on the dairy. Call them, and hey, they got those big service trucks to come out there and take care of the tires that you need repaired. Absolutely. And real close and easy to get into are the 7 locations here in Magic Valley for all your safe driving tires for your cars, pickups, SUVs, trailers, all of this and more. And the best in brake service. I mean the best in brake service. Front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. All of this and so much more with the best of service. They respect and really take care of you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike in Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and of course Trent on Overland in Burley. Nobody better. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run. Next hour, we've got Richard Manning and Frosty Woolridge, 2 home run hitters. Don't go away. Wheels, take it away. Here we go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hour number 2 on March 2nd, Monday. Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with all the tires you need for safe driving. Don't forget to Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing, Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh, when it comes to trash and getting rid of trash, I'll tell you what, Western Waste loves trash. They really do. They take care of it. They take care of your problems. All you need to do to get on the route service, call them and say, help, and they will respond. Let me tell you, 734-6969. Always at your disposal. You call them today. 734-6969. Western Waste Services. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Had a nice talk the other day with Nick Greenwell, and believe me, they are there to serve you and your aches and pains and to recoup from surgery or an accident. Ah, yes, the best of physical therapy right there at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Now, here's the number. Write it down. Call them, 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. The absolute best serving you at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. I'm going to be starting up there again tomorrow. We'll see you there at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Real quick note, too, that we want to stress the fact that our dear friends over at Hanson Mortuary are there to serve you and your family in a real time of need. And that's, of course, when there's the passing of a loved one. They are always there, providing the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, and always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Joel Heward, family and staff serving you at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. And Joel also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been gone for an extended period of time, and this gentleman, I sorely missed hearing his political responses as to what's going on. He is the president of Americans for Limited Government and a dear friend of this program. Rick Manning, my goodness, how are you?
How you doing, Zeb? You have a good trip away, and I hope you're feeling better.
I am feeling 110% better. The trip was excellent. It was all that it was intended to do, and it came out to fruition. I feel phenomenal. How are you doing?
You know, I'm having more fun than anybody should be allowed to have, so we're all good.
I got to ask you first and foremost, because I really value your opinion. My grandmother, my German grandmother, she would look at the Democratic Party today, and she would go simply this: ay, 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 ay. It absolutely seems to be in total disarray when you're thinking that possibly the Democrats might nominate for president Bernie Sanders, a commie socialist. I mean, mean, I don't blame my grandmother if she were here today to say, ay, ay, ay. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think ay, ay, ay is such a soft statement of how bad a shape they're in. Just this weekend, we had Amy Klobuchar have to cancel a rally that she was having in Minnesota, which is her home state, because there was a Black Lives Matter protest at her rally that took over the stage and wouldn't let her do her rally over a prosecution that she did as a district attorney more than a decade ago, which, you know, there's a claim that it was a bad prosecution, but everything that I've read about it didn't seem like it was a bad prosecution. But the fact is, they shut down an Amy Klobuchar rally in Minnesota. We had Michael Bloomberg speaking to a church in Selma, Alabama yesterday, and had a number of the congregants turn their backs to him, and the ultimate disrespect. And so you're looking at at least in certain areas, you're looking at absolute. It demonstrates the divide that exists in the Democratic Party as a whole, because their own candidates apparently are unable to connect with people who, you know, they're not speaking to a black church in Selma because they're Republicans. They aren't able to connect with their own constituencies. So they're in deep trouble.
Well, in regard...
Not even talking about Bernie Sanders, and the fact he's crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was just going to lead into the craziness of Bernie Sanders and the free, and his embracing of a group that wants to stop all prisons in the United States, and also with a group that is in favor of Palestinian terrorists. I mean, where does Bernie Sanders get this support, and why? I mean, I was looking at the graphs this morning, and before the Super Tuesday tomorrow, the voting in Texas, they said that 34% of Texans on the Democratic side favor Bernie Sanders. This is kind of spooky, is it not?
Well, yes, it is. And the answer is we have failed our children by providing them with an inadequate education and allowed them to be indoctrinated, and and that's where Bernie Sanders gets his support primarily. Not to diverge too much, but we have something really strikes me right now. Joe Biden obviously won the South Carolina primary on Saturday, and the normal circumstance in terms of what would happen in the past is that would give Joe Biden a big bump into going into Super Tuesday. There's actually a reason why it won't, and I don't want to miss this point. Because of early voting, and the Democrats in particular embrace of early voting, and for the very good political reason of candidates want to bank as many votes as they can, the voters in Texas and California and elsewhere who voted for people like Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, Tom Steyer, any number of candidates who may have voted for those people a month, 2 weeks ago, even last week, now have essentially their ballots are canceled because they voted for a candidate who's not even going to be running. So and you have about what appears to be about half of the Democratic ballots were cast before the Biden win in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. So Biden, who was the presumed nominee, and then because of his own foibles, was presumed dead because anybody who actually met him knew he wasn't capable of being president, then bounces back in South Carolina, largely because of an embrace by black voters. And then he comes, but does he get a big bounce out of that in Super Tuesday? I don't think so, because the dice cast on Super Tuesday in terms of the votes. And in California in particular, with something called ballot harvesting, where they literally collect the votes. Random people will collect the votes and turn them in. And so there's absolutely no ballot security whatsoever. It is really, really, really hard to imagine that Joe Biden is going to do well on Super Tuesday. And that actually, it actually creates a very, very strong pathway for Bernie Sanders if the pre-voting does dictate what happens kind of hoisted on their own petard with all this pre-voting that they're doing, and they may want to reconsider how they're functioning in terms, and how the country is functioning in terms of allowing people to vote well in advance of when the actual election is, given that we don't even know who's going to be on the ballot or who's going to be viable when we're actually casting our ballots.
Let me ask you this, Rick, and with your expertise, I know you can explain it to me and my audience. Let's say that the three, Bloomberg, Biden, and Bernie, all end up in basically a horse race with horses limping in across the finish line on three legs, and it goes to Milwaukee to the convention, and they have a brokered convention. What do you anticipate could and may happen if it goes that far, and the Democrats trying to get rid of Bernie? I mean, explain this to me a little bit.
The only way Bernie Sanders, the only way Bernie Sanders gets the nomination is if he is the clear and convincing winner. There are delegates who are super delegates, and effectively those are are elected officials and the like, who aren't picked in primaries and caucuses. They're kind of designated by the Democratic National Committee as being delegates. Bernie Sanders overwhelmingly loses amongst superdelegates. So if he does not come in with a overwhelming majority into Minneapolis, he will not be the nominee. Now, who will be the nominee is a different story, and that is an unpredictable thing, because I believe that most people who've been paying attention don't believe that Joe Biden can be president. And not that he's ineligible, it's just that he's not, I don't think they believe he will be able to function in that role, which really opens up the primary. And I don't think that Mike Bloomberg, with the people turning their backs on him in Selma, I really think he's going to have a very, very, very hard time consolidating votes in the Democratic Party to be able to win. So they're going to have if they have an open convention, it's open to anybody, and all the people who've been rejected will come back in and be considered, and it's unclear who would come out of that. I'm sure there would be an attempt to draft somebody like Michelle Obama to run. I'm sure Hillary will let herself be mentioned as a potential candidate. So they are going to be looking for somebody who can consolidate the party, and I think that's an impossible task, because they have irreconcilable differences between the Bernie Sanders wing and the establishment wing of the Democratic Party.
Did you find it a little bit interesting and curious that Buttigieg all of a sudden closed the doors on his campaign in such a sudden fashion? And do you anticipate there was a little bit of political arm twisting by perhaps Biden and his administration people, that Buttigieg, it's time to go, but we will promise you something down the road in the future? Is that possible?
It's certainly possible. What we know is that Pete Buttigieg has said basically 10 days ago and 12 days ago that he needed to raise $1 million a day to stay viable and to be able to have a chance on Super Tuesday. He never came close to that fundraising goal, and as a result, after doing very poorly in South Carolina, I'm sure some people went to him and said, it's time for you to drop out, be a good soldier, drop out, we'll take care of you. And he is, the thing that he's looking at is he's looking at 2024, he's looking at 2028, because he's a young man. This isn't his last stand. And he's hoping to be he thinks he's a trailblazer. And, he had to, and so he took some lumps this time. But, Joe Biden's run for president 4 times. This is his 4th go at it. So he knows there's a long path ahead. He doesn't want to burn bridges now that he may need to cross over in future presidential elections.
Let me ask you this, Rick, and maybe you think it's much ado about nothing, but I will say that the point was made to me while I was in Arizona by a gentleman that's been involved in Arizona politics for the last 15, 20 years. And we were having lunch together, and he said, Trump has got to figure out a way now, not next week, but right now, how to make an appeal to the younger generation voters, the millennials, if he really wants to go after this election. Would you agree with that?
I do, but I think his appeal, I don't think it's a necessarily a broad-based appeal, but I do think he needs to talk about things like student loan debt. He needs to put the student loan debt problem directly where it belongs, and that's on the Democrats who nationalized the student loan program, dramatically expanded the availability of debt for students, and has effectively indebted students for lifetime indentured servants because they went and got a degree, they can't pay them the money, pay back that debt. Who put in provisions that said you can't declare bankruptcy if you take this debt. Unlike every other debt, you can't declare bankruptcy with student loan debt. So I think there is a pathway to dealing with student loans, and for many millennials, that is a real issue because it's impacting their own lives. It's the dog in their lap. But that doesn't necessarily mean forgive the debt. It means reform the system and privatize the ability to do it and allow people to declare bankruptcy and allow them to sue colleges that don't provide educations that are adequate to actually meet the indebtedness they cause the people to undertake to get the education. So there's some things that can be done that would both alleviate the debt, provide a way out, but also protect people from future kind of scurrilous activity by our college system of indebting our children for the future in the hopes with the expectation that somehow the federal government is going to bail them out. So yeah, he needs to do that. I think there's another angle to this because we focus on college millennials. There's a lot more than half of the millennials are blue collar, and the blue collar job boom. The reason he's talking about the blue collar job boom is not only because it's true, because it disproportionately helps blue collar millennials. That's who's that's who's getting the jobs. That's who's going and becoming electricians, plumbers, and the like. So when you get down to it, his real appeal to blue-collar millennials is a straight economic opportunity and hope appeal. Because in the Trump economy, those are jobs that have come back. Those are jobs that are thriving, and those are jobs that are open. And the person who didn't go to college or only went to junior college or the like, they have an opportunity in their life that they didn't have in the past under Obama. And as a result, I think when he talks about blue-collar jobs appeal, and then they micro-target it to that appeal to millennials who are blue-collar millennials, that's their direct appeal to about half of millennials. It's an economic appeal that they're better off now than they were before, and they've got a president who actually cares about their well-being.
Let me change gears just for a second here in the remaining minutes left, Rick, and I'm going to use two words, panic and perspective. When I say the words panic about the coronavirus, it seems like that's where everybody is heading for a state of panic. Oh my, the sky is falling. But I think they need to put it in the proper perspective and look at the flu virus that hits the United States, and we have as many as 30 to 60,000 people per annum pass away from the flu. To date, we have seen 2 people pass away from the coronavirus here in this United States, but panic over this situation seems to be taking over. What are your thoughts?
Well, there is a certain degree of panic, and it's going to get worse, and it's largely because every time somebody contracts the coronavirus, there's a big headline about it. And so people say, this is unusual. If every time somebody contracted the regular flu, there was a headline, we would have nothing but headlines on people getting the regular flu.
Right.
And now, here's what we know. I've gone to a couple briefings on this, so let me just give you a couple things we know. And I'm going to add a third P to your panic and persistence, and that's prudence. Okay? We need to be prudent. It is wise to sit there and make certain that in the event there is a temporary shortage of food, for instance, that you have about a week's worth of food available, so you don't, because the grocery store shelves, there could be supply chain disruptions. There could be food deliveries don't occur because people are told to basically shelter in place for containment reasons. So make certain that you have basic foodstuffs capable of making sure your family's taken care of for a week or two. That's reasonable and prudent. Make certain that if you're sick, don't go to work. Okay? If you're sick, once again, don't go to work. Men like to gut it out and say, oh, how tough we are, because and then when we get really sick, then our wives will call us babies. But don't tough it out. Don't go to work. Work from home if you can, and that's but call out if you can't work from home. So don't gut it out. Don't expose everybody else's germs. Last, don't panic. The idea of buying a bunch of masks and having a lifetime supply of masks on hand is, A, detrimental to the overall public health because public health places can't get masks, which is actually a real problem right now. And secondly, those masks are going to work if you're already sick. They probably don't work in an environment where you've got this virus floating around, because what I've read, it is the mask. If you're sick, it captures when you cough, it captures the fluid. Even if you cover your mouth, fluid comes out, bacteria comes out, germs and viruses come out, right? You cover your mask, those viruses, the water that they're in, it's trapped, and those viruses don't spread. So if you're sick, wear a mask. But if you're not sick, the masks don't apparently do much good. It is an airborne virus. You touch the door handle, you grab it, then you rub your eye, and then it's in your system.
Right.
That's how the virus appears to transmit. So, prudence. Be smart. Be careful, but don't panic.
Absolutely.
That's what I recommend. And based on briefings I've received, I think that's what the government would recommend. And I'm going to give you one last short thought on it. I want people to know I was actually at the Department of Labor 12 years ago, and I was part of the emergency management team. The emergency management team doesn't just do, hurricanes and earthquakes and stuff like that. We actually had a preparation plan for pandemic flu, where what would happen, what systems would have to change, all the different contingencies. We would talk out and we try to figure it out. That was 12 years ago. It was run by the career staff, so it didn't float around between, different political people came in and out. You didn't lose the knowledge. It was run by career staff. Every agency in the government has the same thing. And the reason Mike Pence has been put in charge of this is to coordinate those agencies, all of those agencies, from Department of Transportation, Labor, to Department of Defense and Homeland Security, and the CDC, Department of Health and Human Services, coordinate all of those contingency plans, make sure there's a common message, and that they're working in sync to try to minimize the impact of the coronavirus. That's happening. That's why Mike Pence is in charge. And plus, he can talk to foreign governments as the vice president and authoritatively get information. We don't need a guy in a white lab coat to run this. We need a guy in a white lab coat to find a cure. We need a guy who understands governmental systems to get the governmental systems working together to ensure that we have the most coordinated federal response possible in working with state and local governments. That's why Mike Pence is in charge, and that's why Donald Trump made him in charge. He's a former governor. He's the right man for the job. And it doesn't mean the coronavirus is going to go away. It means our federal government response is going to be coordinated, and as much as possible, we're going to avoid the chaotic nature. People need to know there is a plan, and it's sitting in place, and now it's being enacted step by step. So don't panic. Be prudent.
Absolutely. Rick, I want to compliment you on your very, very explanatory viewpoint on everything that's going on politically, especially the coronavirus. And this gentleman is the co-author of the book Necessary Noise with Star Parker and president of Americans for Limited Government, friend of this program, Richard Manning. Rick, God bless. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm glad to hear you're doing better, and I look forward to it.
Thank you, sir. God bless you, man. Thanks much. Real true friend, and I really appreciate him being on the show every Monday with a sound voice and sound thought, really, of what's going on politically. I want to remind you about a great big bull sale that's going to happen this Saturday. Oh, boy. I mean, one of the West's most outstanding bull sales. It's going to be at the Burley Auction Yard this coming Saturday, March 7th at 1 p.m. Oh, yeah, Merv May's going to be the auctioneer. They got the best, the cream of the crop, and of course the best of yearling and coming 2-year-old Gelbvieh, Angus, and Balancer bulls from the Sheridan Ranch up in Elmo. Cordell and Patty Sheridan, my goodness, a life's work of creating and just promoting the best of bulls for you. Please, cattlemen, don't miss this sale. 80 bulls are going to be selling, 30 coming 2-year-olds and 50 yearlings, and again, it starts at 1 p.m. at the Burley Auction Yard this coming Saturday. The 25th annual Sheridan Ranch Bull Sale. Don't you miss it. For more information, call Cordell or Patty Sheridan at 430-5532. Let's see real quick. Oh, my goodness, let's not forget our friends at Let's Ride. Oh, yes, where the fun is sold. It is time to start thinking about spring. It's time, if you already have four-wheelers, to think about getting them serviced and ready to go. Well, all you need to do is call 436-4771. Let's Ride, located at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. Get everything serviced and ready for a fun summer. And don't forget, if you don't have a four-wheeler, take my word for it. These folks have got the best. The cream of the crop right there in the showroom. You get over and check it out. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24, between Rupert and the World, and it's true, this is where the fun is sold. Right now, let's go to the phone line. And a gentleman that is not only a very, very dear friend of mine, but really writes some outstanding articles, and I really underline the word outstanding, and I say good morning to my friend back in Golden, Colorado, Frosty Woldridge. How are you?
Well, Zeb Bell, thank you very much, and a good morning to you, and welcome back to health and happiness and that refreshing summertime experience down there in Arizona. It's just great. I'm glad you guys had a great time. I read your cow pies last night with relish and joy, and it's just a pleasure to have you back. And hey, a shout out to Sharon, a fantastic host, fantastic interview. She's just and has been fantastic. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. And again, I agree with your kudos for Sharon and Gina that filled in for me while I was gone. Thank you very much. And, you know, I got to tell you real quick, I just read your politicians say and do the darndest things, and you really picked up on some excellent points of complete lunacy that each and every one of the Democrats seems to espouse to. You were very good and astute picking on Bernie Sanders, Warren, Bloomberg, Mayor Pete, everybody. Kudos to you for an excellent article.
Well, thank you. You all can read that on newswithviews.com this morning. And what I'm trying to do, essentially, as a citizen journalist, not paid by the mainstream media magnates, if you will, all those that have the money to make sure that their string journalists are saying the right things and reporting the right things according to the mainstream media and those who own them. And that is this. As a citizen journalist, I get to just tell it like it is. Pretty much the same way you and I have been telling it like it is for the last 20 years on your show. And the reality is that when you tell it like it is, everybody is nodding their head. And hopefully, as the truth comes out and the facts come out, we understand exactly what we're facing, and we make sure that we don't allow those particular individuals, say Elizabeth Warren, who has lied her entire life as far as becoming or being a Native American. It got her into college. It got her into some kind of an educational college position, making an unbelievable amount of money. And yet, then she gets her way into the Senate. How many more lies has she told? And I simply expose all that in this article, Politicians Say and Do the Darndest Things.
You know, the facts are the facts, and even though I know some of it was written in kind of a tongue-in-cheek attitude, everything you said in there actually is true. But I want to become serious here for a minute. And you and I have known each other for well over 25 years. And I am really concerned, worried, and I really wonder and worry about our education system, to where now we are seeing and hearing and reading that most of the millennials, they estimate that it's almost like 40 to 45% of the millennials, 30 and under, are espousing and voting for the likes of Bernie Sanders. Here is a communist. Here is a socialist that really doesn't belong to the Democratic Party. I think this man actually hates America and what it stands for, and he may become president of the United States. What's wrong with us?
Well, that is one of the really big challenges that we have is to educate the American people, and certainly these millennials, as to what socialism actually is. Churchill said it best when he gave a definition of socialism, but Margaret Thatcher has also given a definition. But when you see somebody like Bernie Sanders praising Fidel Castro, and I saw the interview.
Yep.
I mean, you got to understand that this man is out to lunch somewhere in left field in another ballpark of reality, because Fidel Castro executed people who disagreed with him. Fidel Castro kept Cuba in an absolute time chamber that didn't allow it to move forward. That's why you see all the 1950s cars still running there in Cuba, and you see the poverty is just complete, and his communistic, socialistic approach did nothing. But then you look into modern-day Venezuela, and I've traveled through Venezuela, Caracas, and all that goes with that. Look at what just one or two socialists have done to Venezuela, and I got to tell you, the Venezuelans and most South Americans are hard-working people, and yet you start turning them into a socialistic system, you see what's happened down there. And so, one way or the other, these millennials and anybody that votes for socialism or the kind of communistic approach in this country, they're going to find themselves at the back end of a southbound mule. And unfortunately, if you find out the hard way, you can vote socialism in, but you got to shoot your way out of it in the final analysis.
Yeah.
And so that's what Sanders is bringing us, and these kids are just beyond stupid. That's all they're doing.
Well, think about it this way too, Frosty, and I want you to elaborate on this. Here's Sanders with the coming out and espousing the abolishment of prisons, and he's been promoted, and he promotes also certain Palestinian terrorists. He wants free colleges. He wants free health care. And right there I'm going to stop and say free health care for all. And he doesn't care if they come across the borders. He doesn't care if we have any borders. He wants everybody and anybody to come into this country. There is no way, and I'm not a mathematician, but you don't have to be. You can just understand there's no way that a healthcare program like that could be feasible, will work, or can be paid for. It's impossible.
Well, that's exactly correct. And Bernie Sanders is an open borders man. I mean, he's already said it. I've listened to him. He'll tear down any walls that are separating Mexico with America. And he would let all illegals come across the border. He would unending legal immigration with no understanding of the final consequences. And so, if he ever got in, you could just you can figure that the United States of America is just going to fold as a country, as a free country, as a sovereign country, as a rule of law country. It simply will no longer exist with somebody like Bernie Sanders at the helm.
What do you think is going to happen, though? You get a chance to look at the crystal ball. Do you think one of my other guests on this program, Dr. Gerard Lamero from back east, he's on here frequently. He's written many, many books, and he has predicted that this may be the year that the Democratic Party fails to exist anymore because it's going to fragment itself. What are your thoughts?
I would agree with that. You know, I usually try to stay away from all the back and forth stuff, but I listen to CNN. I listen to Don Lemon. I mean, one of the things you need to do in life is listen to your enemies. And Don Lemon is a man who said that all white men in this country are terrorists. I mean, he himself is one of the biggest racists in America, and he's calling all white men terrorists. Well, guess what? We all built this country. We all sustain this country. All 90% of the armed forces are served with white men, and that's what keeps this country free. And so you really don't want to be attacking that which sustains you. And yet, that's what's going on. Then, of course, I've seen Fox, and I've seen Jesse Waters, and I certainly see Tucker Carlson, who's one of the most rational and reasoned men I've seen. Same with Laura Ingraham. I mean, you've got people who are speaking the facts and telling the truth, and hopefully they're the ones that are maintaining. And that's in the end, as long as truth is allowed, and that is under the First Amendment, we have a chance to maintain this country. And I feel strongly that that's what's going to happen in this next election, because these Democrats, that last debate I saw, they're turning on each other just like a bunch of rabid dogs. And hopefully they simply do not have a concerted platform that actually is going to benefit America. It's too confused right now, and they're all confused. So we're have to see how it plays out.
One of the items I wanted to talk to you about this morning, Frosty, in the time remaining, and you and I shared some thoughts on this on the telephone in the last couple of days, that Barbara Ehart, representative from the state of Idaho, had introduced a bill that I absolutely support, that no transgender men posing as girls should be allowed to play in women's sports. It's totally wrong. It's going to be the destruction of women's sports. It's going to be the destruction of Title IX, and I absolutely support what she's doing here in the state of Idaho, trying to act as a dam, if you will, to hold back the waters of what's happening and has occurred in other states. And there's, by the way, many cases going to court for litigation over this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I want to say one thing about that. As an athlete myself, my whole life, if you look at Nancy Pelosi, the woman is completely out of her mind. I mean, I'm almost positive she has severe onset dementia. She does not have a rational reasoning process, and she's one of the ones at the highest levels of government that supports the transgenders out there competing with girls. What I would do if I were the father, if I were a person in any kind of authority, I would encourage all women athletes, all the way from the 6th grade on or whatever, whenever the transgender starts showing up at these track meets and or any athletic competition, is that all women simply boycott any event. A DNA woman boycotts any event where there's a DNA man competing as a transgender female. That would put a stop to this immediately. So let me repeat that again. Every event where women are competing against women, DNA girls, DNA young teenagers, DNA women in the Olympics, you simply boycott that event. Then the event doesn't go on anymore, and we could actually put an end to this nonsense, this absolute I don't have enough words for it when you sit there and you pretend that a DNA man who's got a package between his legs is competing against a DNA female. It's not right. It's not ethical. It's simply wrong on every level, and anyone that supports that is completely out of their complete minds to support transgenders competing against girls, DNA girls, at any kind of event, period. I hope I made that very clear.
Absolutely, and I'll say a step further on this, that the Democrats and the Democratic Party are saying that the bill of Barbara Ehart and others across the United States is not fair, equitable, or respectful. They say that it's not right to not allow trans men to compete against girls because they say that's discrimination. The discrimination is against the girls. The discrimination will kill girls' sports. The discrimination is putting girls in the background of trying to earn, of course, the way to possibly go to college with different scholarships, etc. And this lunacy of opening it up to transgender men is absolutely got to stop.
It does have to stop. And if they want to be fair, let transgender DNA males who pretend to be girls compete among themselves. They can organize their entire transgender races, events. I don't care what they're in. Have the transgenders compete among themselves, and then it would be fair, it would be equitable, and it would be rational. And so that's the solution to this. but not what's going on right now, Zeb.
I've got to ask you before we go about the wall and the funding for the wall. You know, last week Elizabeth Warren said that to help the coronavirus, that President Trump should take the money away from his racist wall and put it towards the coronavirus. We've got a call waiting, but I want you to answer that real quick on your thoughts.
You know, I've listened to Elizabeth Warren. The lady is just not rational. She can't even do sixth grade math. She wants to give, Medicare and everything else to everybody across this. You can't pay for this stuff. She can't. She literally lacks the intellectual, mathematical intelligence of a ninth grade math student in algebra. And so anything she says, it's just off the wall, period.
Absolutely. Caller, good morning. You're on the air with Frosty and Zeb. Go ahead, please.
Well, if the transgender had their own, events, nobody would care. Nobody would pay any attention, and the elite, the media wouldn't cover it. It's all about disruption. It's all about being in our face. It's all about attention. They're so desperate. Their lives are so desperate that they just got to get attention at every turn, any way they can. This whole thing, I mean, let's face it, there's less than 2% of them in America transgender, and there's not really, you add it all up in a comparison, there's not that many of them, but we give them, they get every damn headline there is, and you get sick of it. And so, you're right, if they were competing against each other, nobody would care. Nobody would show up. Nobody would cover it. I'm going to hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, Frosty.
The caller is exactly correct. And as a matter of fact, it's not even 2%. I mean, in this country, transgenders, way less than 1%. I mean, they're not even a blip on the screen. But because they're men, DNA men, and they're competing in female athletics, DNA women, that's where all this is coming from. So if they actually got to compete against themselves like they should as a completely separate class of competitors, they would be long forgotten very quickly, as it should be. I'm sure all of them are so confused, either intellectually or emotionally or sexually, that they live depraved lives in the final analysis, or some kind of an odd life, and let them go do that. That's their right, their will, choice. Go for it. Just don't impose yourself on DNA women and pretend that this is an athletic event. It's simply not, and the caller is exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. Another caller with a question or a comment. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
I would posit the idea that they should just compete as men. If they had grown up through their teenage years as a man, they're usually bigger, stronger, more athletic than a woman. Let them compete as men. Thanks for my comment.
I agree with, and I want to say this, Frosty, that there's been a lot of cases, one in particular here in the state of Idaho, where a crime was committed, and then while in prison, the prisoner, and it happened here in the state of Idaho with a gentleman, and I use that term loosely, Edmo was his name, and he wanted to have a sex change paid for by the taxpayers of Idaho to become a woman. He committed the crime as a man. He should suffer it as a man, and the state of Idaho and the taxpayers should not even consider for a moment paying for that sex change.
Absolutely, it's a personal choice, and take it out of your own personal pocketbook. The rest of us don't need to be part of changing your sex or pretending to change your sex, because in the end, you're either a girl or you're a guy, and that's the way DNA is. You're either an X and Y chromosome or a YY chromosome. That's the way it is. The rest of it's all in your head, and that is a biological fact. You're a DNA male or a DNA female, and if you're going the other way or any other which way, it's all in your head.
Absolutely.
And, however you work that out, you work it out with yourself and your God.
Absolutely. Have another call quickly. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
I'm in agreement completely with you on that, but unless I misread the information on it, Idaho taxpayers already paid for that.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Legislators decided that we should, and so we have already paid for that.
Yeah, but you see, that's the whole point. It can't be a precedent. It cannot be a precedent of order to follow in the future. We've got to stand up and say never again will this happen or even be thought of. And that's the point why I brought this up about the Edmo case. He committed the crime as a man, was sent to prison. So being a man when he committed the crime, I'm not going to be as a taxpayer. I don't want to pay. I don't want you to pay, anybody else to pay. But it's this lunacy about transgenderism and sex changes and everything else that now is taking precedent in this country. Girls' sports, a primary example. Girls are suffering and not getting scholarships. Look at the case with the 3 girls in Connecticut that lost track scholarships to go on to higher education because transgender boys were involved and they beat them every time they ran a race. We've got to stop this lunacy in general, caller.
Well, I'm in agreement, but it's just like earlier when we were talking about the Democrats. There's absolutely, in my opinion, no Democrat that is in their right mind, and none of them Democratic candidates for president are rational or reasonable in any other sense of the matter, for sure. But and the problem is since 1965, with the immigration rules that they put into place, have killed us, and now we're paying the piper for the, and I'm afraid that the price is going to be a little too high for us.
I agree with you, and thank you for your call. Frosty, respond if you would, please.
There's no question. I have said that the 1965 Immigration Reform Act, which was created by Metzenbaum and Jacob Javits and certainly Ted Kennedy, they are the fathers of the destruction of America. They've created a nightmare of the multicultural chaos that we're now embroiled in. They've created the racial divide that has just boiled up further. We're now going to see religious conflict with the Muslims in this country as they grow in numbers and push for Sharia law. The languages that are now spoken in this country are no longer just English. You've got La Raza trying to separate the 4 states bordering Mexico back into Mexico. You've got Muslims trying to create Sharia law no-go zones, and they're doing a very good job of that in New York City, certainly in Detroit, Michigan, and Miami, Florida, Fremont, California, certainly in Minneapolis. How do I know? Because I visited those places. It looks like little Baghdad when you go into those areas and see all the mosques and see all the women in burqas. Teddy Kennedy, honest to God, the destroyer and the father of the destruction of the United States, and certainly Trudeau, the son of Pierre Trudeau, now Justin Trudeau, he will be known as the father of the destruction of Canada. And I'll tell you what, the history books are going to go, what were we thinking?
Yep.
And why did we allow this to go on?
Absolutely.
And why didn't we stop it? Well, I'm going to stand up with every American, black, white, and brown, who wants America to be America, speak English, abide by our laws, and live in this country lawfully, and that I'm going to stand with you. And hopefully we stand together, and I hope that we get people into Congress that start abiding by the Constitution and our laws and our sovereignty as a nation. Otherwise, if we don't, we literally are going to turn into another Venezuela. That's where we're headed.
I agree.
On this path.
I agree. I got to run. I'm out of time, old buddy, but I certainly appreciate the conversation this morning. Excellent articles. Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado. God bless you, man. Thanks, and look forward to next Monday.
Thank you, Zim.
Take care, buddy. Time for the weather before I run out of time. And, of course, the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. They've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cassia area for well over 50 years. They are the best at what they do. They are the professionals when it comes to tax return preparation, tax planning, helping you with your family business, your business you're involved in, retirement planning, bookkeeping services, all of this and so much more, with offices in Burley and Rupert. The professionals, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
We're going to be on a warming trend this week, considering we got some snow over the weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting sunny skies today. A little bit of a breeze out of the west at about 15 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 25 miles an hour. Looking at a high of 44. Tonight, mostly clear skies, low of 27. Tomorrow, partly Partly sunny and 50, expecting an overnight low of 31. Then the warming trend starts. By Wednesday, mostly sunny skies, 57. Looks like sunny skies and 60 for Thursday. Then we're going to be rolling in the upper 50s to low 60s for Friday and through the weekend. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much. And the weather brought to you again by Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. Accounting services for you, your family, and your business. And people that are starting a business or maybe a partnership or corporation, maybe you want to expand your business, you've got questions, they've got answers. At Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. In Burley and Rupert, you get a hold of them today. Wow, we've got a big hour coming up next hour. Curtis Ellis, a man that's been on our program many times in the past, policy director for America First, and got some interesting things to ask him about the current state of affairs. And then at 10:30, the Idaho Legislative Update. Don't miss that. Don't forget to life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Todd and the crew, they are really dedicated and responsive to your needs. They want to make sure that you're covered. They want to make sure you've got everything taken care of. So please pick up the phone and dial the number, 436-4424, 436-4424. Call them, make an appointment. It's real easy, and they're easy to find, easy to work with. Great folks. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. We are about ready to send it back over to Wheels, and we'll go to the CBS News. And again, I want to reiterate that coming up next hour, Curtis Ellis, Policy Director for America First. And then, I do not know the guest. It's going to be kind of a wait and see that Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke's got lined up for me at 10:30, but I'm sure it'll be good. Always is. Idaho Legislative Update. Right now, let's send it back over to Wheels. I'll be back in about 7 minutes. Oh, good morning and welcome back. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch. Good morning on a Monday, March the 2nd. And, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with all the tires you need for your safe driving. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And our friends at Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. You know, this is a beautiful 12-bedroom home for seniors. I really want you to call. I really want you to make arrangements for a visit. Seniors, this might be just the place for you. 3 meals a day, snacks, housekeeping, local transportation, all of this and more. So please call Matt or Kelly Wiggins at 650-4979. That number again, 650-4979, and they'd be really happy to set up an appointment to show you around Greystone Crossing. Once again, it's located at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Want to also remind you about an investment opportunity where you're in control of your financial future and security through silver purchases with our friends at 7K Metals. Absolutely, you can create your own security bank, if you will, through the silver purchases that come right to you at your home. It's a saving opportunity for you and a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. Find out more. Contact Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon Wilmot at 430-3259. Tell them I told you to call 7K Metals with your financial security through silver purchases for the future. I want to remind you too quickly, I'm running a little bit behind here this morning about our friends at the Sheridan Ranch Bull Sale. I've told you it's going to be this next Saturday starting at 1 p.m., March 7th at the Burley Auction Yard. They are going to have 80 ripping good bulls to sell, 30 coming 2-year-olds, 50 yearlings, and free delivery up to 300 miles radius. So please don't forget, this is one of the West's most premier bull sales put on by the Sheridan Ranch, Cordell and and Patty Sheridan from Elmo. And believe me, the very best of Gelbvieh, Angus, and Balancer bulls at this 25th annual bull sale at the Burley Auction Yard this coming Saturday at 1 p.m. The Sheridan Ranch Bull Sale. Don't you miss it. All right, now we've missed having this gentleman on the program. I haven't heard from him for quite some time, and I'm very honored to have him back on the show. He is the policy director for America First, and I love that name. I love that title. Good morning, Curtis Ellis. How are you?
Great. Good morning, Zeb. It's so great to be back speaking with you again.
It's been way too long, my friend. And first and foremost, the title, America First. I love that because I believe that we are citizens of the greatest country in the world. We should always stand up and pay tribute to the great sacrifices our forefathers provided for us to live in this great country, the United States of America. So, again, I applaud you, America First. Tell us a little bit about what it is and what you do.
Yeah, America First Policies is the outfit I'm with. Is a nonprofit organization, the nonprofit arm of the America First Action Super PAC. And so we have two wings of this little bird here, and the America, and both of them, we are the only official White House Super PAC. The president supports us. The president does fundraisers with us. You can't say that about any other Super PAC. He does fundraisers for his own campaign and for the Republican National Committee and for us. And any other PAC, or if you get something in the email that says, please give us money, we support the president, if it does not have the name America First Action or America First Policies on it, it is not the real thing. We are the real thing. It's a phony scam. But what we do is we're headed up by Linda McMahon. Linda and Vince, as you may know them from the World Wrestling Federation, they have known the president for 25 years. Linda was in the president's cabinet as the Small Business Administration, heading up that agency, and she is now heading up America First Policy. So, you know, considering her background and all, you might say, we're going to open a can of whoop-ass on get this election won for the president. And what we are doing is we're doing a lot of voter registration right now because, surprise, surprise, I was shocked to learn that there are many people, even people who go to these wonderful, beautiful Trump rallies, there's like 10 to 20% of them aren't even registered to vote.
Wow.
So we're out there finding them, finding the president's supporters who are not yet registered, getting them signed up and making sure they come out so that we can have a big, beautiful victory in November and reelect President Trump and his America First agenda. I've been traveling with Vice President Pence around the country for the last 2 years promoting the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, the tax cuts. We're going to go back on the road here soon to talk about the Great American Jobs agenda of tax reform, trade reform, regulatory reform, energy reform, immigration reform, workforce development, job training, apprenticeships, everything it takes to bring jobs back to America, keep jobs in America, and make more jobs in America. So everybody will be fat and happy. No, everybody will be well employed, so everybody can be all they can be.
You know, Curtis, on the other side, the dark side of the aisle, with the Democrats, and I've had many guests come on my program and say that this Democratic Party is almost on the edge of the cliff with a total fragmentation and demise. And little by little, they've always tried to, whether it was the Mueller report or whether it was the impeachment of Donald Trump over the conversation with the president of Ukraine, whatever, they have been nitpicking and going after this president since 2016. And now, with nothing really to stand on as we come up to the 11th hour before the election, are you worried, concerned about what little trick they might pull out of their deck of cards prior to November?
Well, they always have one. They're afraid to go to the American people and say, elect us because we're going to do X, Y, Z. We've got better policies. We have a better approach. They don't have a better approach. They don't have better policies. So they're always playing these backroom tricks, as you said. The Mueller report, the Russia hoax, the Russia collusion hoax, this was all cooked up. This was all fabricated. There was no collusion. There was no Russian interference in our election, working with President Donald Trump or the Trump campaign. Sure, the Russians were, they took out some Facebook ads. They did whatever they did. Remind everybody, too young to remember, there used to be a Communist Party USA that ran candidates for president, and that guy Gus Hall is one of their famous candidates, ran every 4 years, and he explicitly said, "I take my orders from Moscow." So I guess that's interfering in our elections too. But anyway, besides to your point, you can count on them. You can be sure they will try to pull a trick out of their hat. They're not going to wait till October, but they'll probably do it again in October. I'm not afraid. I am counting on them doing it, and that's the reason we are registering voters. We cannot be complacent for a moment. It's easy to steal an election if the difference is a few thousand votes. It gets much harder to steal an election if the difference is 50,000 votes or 100,000 votes. And they will probably I'm sure, they will do everything they can to turn out voters in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, the key states to put together an electoral college majority. They're gonna empty the graveyards. they're gonna make sure that every human being, even if they're not registered to vote, votes. And so we can't be complacent for a moment, because so much is at stake here. The president is doing the right thing. His policies are the right policies, and we've got to make sure he gets reelected. And we can't be complacent and say, Bernie Sanders, nobody's going to vote for a communist like that. That's not the only way elections are won. Right? On the basis of policies. That's not how elections are generally won. They're very often, unfortunately, you look through history, they're done by trickery and, that's outright theft sometimes.
Curtis
Johnson's a great example. Old Lyndon, they called him Landslide Lyndon. He was elected to the Senate in 1948 by, something like 67 votes or something like that. And it's all well documented. This is not a conspiracy theory. There is no dispute about this. They discovered that the number of votes that got him elected, these were all they were all cast in one polling place. All those voters voted. They signed the book in alphabetical order with the same handwriting. And that's the votes that put him over the top, made him senator, and he went on to become vice president and then president.
I do think, though, Curtis, that there is a problem in this country, and it's an indictment against our schools, whether they be elementary, high school, college, or whatever. And the indictment against them is because of the liberal thought that has been demon-possessed with the teachers in the schools, and our kids subjected to this every day. Polls have come out and said and shown that the millennials 30 and under are absolutely against Trump and his policies and in favor of the free society of Bernie Sanders. What are we going to do, or is Trump going to do anything to try to sway, educate, and reform the thinking of our younger generation into a more conservative, value America and the past of America with the greatest Constitution? What are we going to do to rebuild that fire in the faith in America?
Yeah, you raise a really good point, Zeb. What's being taught in schools today is frightening. It is just bizarre. They're not teaching reading, writing, arithmetic anymore. They're teaching gender identity and victimization, and the most popular history textbook being used in schools today is this Howard Zinn People's History of America that's teaching our kids that America is a racist, sexist, homophobic, genocidal country or something that is based on horrible things. And we have to get back to teaching the virtues of America, the virtues of the Judeo-Christian civilization that arose in the West and came to flower here in America. There's a lot of reform that needs to be done. The president and the Trump administration has been a champion of school choice. Look, there's a reason why the teachers' union and the Democratic establishment, the liberal establishment, I should say, and by the way, the teachers' union are huge supporters of the Democratic Party. There's not a lot of diversity of thought in that organization. There's a reason why they fight school choice so much. They want a monopoly on education. They want a monopoly on our children's minds. They have their curriculum. They have their indoctrination squad. And they're using these institutions of the public schools to basically indoctrinate our children with this idea that America's bad. America was founded by horrible people with horrible ideals, and it's only through some type of socialist redistribution of wealth that we will ever overcome the disparities in XYZ, race, gender, color, hair, freckles or no freckles, whatever. And so what the administration is doing, it's pursuing school choice policies. It's pursuing so you can send your kids to the school you believe will serve them best, the schools you want. This is very important for kids in the inner city that are trapped in failing schools assigned by zip code. And if you want to take the funding, if you want to take the property taxes that you pay, if you want that to be assigned to the school where you want to send your kids, that should be allowed. There's a bill out there in Congress that the president talked about in the State of the Union, Education Scholarship Opportunity Act, that will allow and have some of the federal money from the Department of Education go to the states, and the states can then provide scholarships to offset to give kids the opportunity, parents the opportunity to send the kids to the schools they want. Very important. People don't know. The kids don't know what America was built on. They don't know how this system works. And not knowing how it works, they're vulnerable to and susceptible to the siren song of free stuff. And I think a lot of it, honestly, look, we need civics education, we need honest history education, and we need, it goes deeper than that even. We have to understand how the fruits of liberty and freedom spring from a God. They spring from spiritual, deep spiritual reality, a fundamental reality, that these rights we have were not given to us by the government. They're inherent to us. They're inherent in human beings. They're God-given. And, I'll just leave it at that. But that's, and one of the things the president did is he signed an executive order allowing a moment of silence, allowing students to pray in school. And it's easy to overlook that and say, it's all about the curriculum, but, we always need to remember where we came from and who gave us everything we have.
Absolutely. Curtis, in the time remaining, are you concerned, worried, or do you think it's going to be a short-term worry with the coronavirus and the effect that it's had on the markets and economic stability? Will this issue with coronavirus, if it extends very much longer without getting some kind of control on it, will that hurt the re-elective attempts of the Trump administration?
I am not worried. I am not worried, and I'll tell you, and I'm so glad you asked. Look, it is in times of, it is in these times that we are tried, and it is times like this that our best character comes forward. The American system of innovation, of free thought, innovation, and our healthcare system is the best in the world. And we will come through with a vaccine, with a treatment, to get a handle on this thing. You can't forget, China is basically a third world country with a capitalist storefront. It's a third world communist country. They had a bad healthcare system to begin with. Everybody talks about socialized medicine and Medicare for all or this or that or whatever these people are promising. You want to see how a socialized healthcare system works? We got it on display in Wuhan, China. Okay? We are better than that, and we will prevail. Look, this is going to be President Trump's finest hour. This is going to be America's finest hour. We will beat this, and we will come out stronger and better for it. Because, Zeb, you and I have been talking about this for years, for a decade, about how we need to be manufacturing things, making stuff in America again. We need to be bringing these factories back to the United States. We can't be dependent on China. I've talked myself blue in the face. This little bug in China has done more to convince people that that's what needs to be done than all of the thousands of hours I've spent talking myself blue in the face. So there's a silver lining to this. We're going to come out stronger, and our economy is going to be stronger because right now, I'm sure you've heard the number, like 80% of our drugs, of the active ingredients in everything from aspirin to ibuprofen to penicillin is made in China. That didn't used to be. It used to be made here in the United States. No businessman would ever let his business be dependent on one sole source supplier, because he'd be held hostage by that supplier. No farmer, well, some farmers do. I don't know. I'm not so big on the farming myself, but they usually diversify their crops. You know, they run a few different things. So if that one's not so good, well, you know, I'll sell the calves and make some money there. You know, nobody wants to be dependent on one sole source of income, no one sole source of their supply that goes into what they sell. And America has gotten itself behind that 8 ball, but we're going to get out of it. Just like we're going to get out of this virus, we're going to fix it, and we'll be better off for it, and President Trump's going to be the hero, and he'll be reelected. This is the way it is.
Real quick, answer this last question, Curtis. I have been a proponent for a long time on this program that I'm not at all concerned about Vladimir Putin and China. I'm not concerned about what they will do or possibly world interaction in the form of a war with Russia right now. I am extremely concerned about China and the naive attitude that most of our politicians have. Do you think that this virus, the problems with the coronavirus and other problems related to China now are coming to the forefront where we're going to realize China is not our friend?
That we are certainly going to do that. Yes, that's right. And I agree with you 100%. China is the greatest threat facing America today. The Chinese Communist Party. Remember, there's only 90 million members of the Chinese Communist Party. There's 1.5 billion people in China. The Communist Party is a gangster crew. They're interested only in preserving their power. They arrested the first doctors that noticed this bizarre pneumonia-like infection popping up in Wuhan. What did they do? They didn't give them a Medal of Honor and then swoop into action. No, they arrested these guys and say, you're spreading rumors, you're creating public unrest. And it is the Chinese Communist Party that unleashed this on the world. And now we see how they operate and how dangerous they are. They've corrupted the World Health Organization. They've corrupted the National Basketball Association. They've corrupted so many of our businesses that are afraid to say something that doesn't fit the Communist Party line. And now we see, though, how we have been so naive and let ourselves become dependent on China. And now the disruptions in the market, right? See, what's happened is companies like Apple and others have built their supply chains, built their factories in China, and when they can't get, and those factories are all shut down. And now everybody's saying, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to sell iPhones because I can't make iPhones. And General Motors has said some of their plants are going to shut down because they can't get parts out of China to assemble the pickup trucks and the SUVs in Texas and in Michigan, right? So there's no need to be doing that. And China and our military is also dependent on it. I mean, there's crucial elements, these things called rare earths, used to make the high-strength, high-tech alloys used in aircraft and in various other defense applications that are only coming from China, and there's no reason for that. We have those here in America. So, as I said before, I've talked myself blue in the face. You've spent many hours on your program educating people about this, but this virus has shown us, it's shown millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions of Americans and people around the world in Western Europe that we can't be dependent on China. China is not our friend. They're not becoming more capitalist and more freedom-loving as they became more prosperous. No, they became more militaristic and more totalitarian. And look, that's what the USMCA was about. The Mexico-Canada trade agreement, we got rid of NAFTA. We have a better NAFTA now, a better deal, so that we can do manufacturing in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and we don't need China anymore.
Absolutely. Curtis, I'm out of time, and I want you to come back real soon, the Policy Director for American First Policies, and that's Curtis Ellis, good friend of this program. Thank you so much. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
God bless you, man. Thanks so much. Curtis Ellis, outstanding to have on the air and discuss what's going on in politics today. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Don't forget 459 Overland and Burley. Oh, my goodness sakes, almost everything is on sale right now, and they've got great big shipments of new recliners, sofas, love seats, dining room sets. Wow, and the flooring and all the carpet and huge savings. You better get in there today and talk to the people that really are the professionals with the beautification and comfortization of your home. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Like I said, you better get in and save money and really enjoy the comfort and the beautiful furniture from Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Right now, Wheels, it's all yours.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, real quick, I want to remind you, too, about our friends at Patterson's Electronics at 421 East Main in Burley. Hello, Curtis and Lorena and the rest of the staff. They literally have all your electronic needs, whether it's home theater systems, video surveillance cameras, car stereos and speakers, and they've got a whole bunch of brand new audio systems, all the new models that have been in the store. You better stop in and see them today. Complete sound systems and televisions, they've got them all, by Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs, all of this and more at Patterson's Electronics. Open Monday through Saturday 9 to 6. Wonderful people serving you at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 678-6997. Right now, it's time for our Idaho Legislative Update, brought to you by Handy Truck Lines. And Handy Truck Lines was established in 1928, and they've been serving the transportation services and needs of Idaho and all the surrounding states. And we thank Clay and the rest of his folks for sponsoring our Legislative Update for 2020. And I believe, thanks to my good friend, Speaker of the House Scott Betke, that we have a guest lined up for this half hour. And he is Joe Palmer with the Department of Transportation. Joe, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you, Zeb?
Not too bad. Give us your official title and what you do so we can start off our conversation talking about transportation.
I'm actually not with the Transportation Department. I'm the legislator I chair the Transportation Committee.
I see. Okay. What do you have as far as potential problems or issues in this legislative session, Joe, that relate to transportation? Tell my audience what's being done or not being done.
Well, it's a constant battle on how to fund transportation. It's always depleting because of the fact that most of it is tied to the gas tax. And when it's tied to the gas taxes, vehicles get better and better mileage. Obviously, the gas tax stays the same so that we don't get as much money, or pretty well stays flat most of the time. So we're always trying to find other ways of funding transportation, and the last way we go down is to raise taxes. So it's a constant battle all the time.
Joe, when you talk about funding and you talk about the infrastructure, are we making any headway on an increase of funding or money for infrastructure?
We are. We do small amounts almost every year. We did House Bill 312 about 4 years ago, which was a large amount where we did increase the gas tax and the registration a small amount. But every year since then, we've done anywhere from $18 to $30 million increases where we've taken money from the growth in the sales tax and those types of issues whenever, the economy is growing and it's doing well. So whenever we have that opportunity to take some of that money and put it towards transportation, we can. But there's a lot of things that are vying for that money all the time. So it's never easy.
Joe, let me ask you this, and I'm going to be very blunt. With the rise of interest, not by me, but by some, of electric vehicles, they're not really contributing to helping our infrastructure. How do you go about getting their money on a fair and equitable basis?
To make it fair and equitable, it needs to be constantly changing, just like the gas tax. If we do an adjustment on the gas tax, we also need to do an adjustment on that. Currently, we have a fee on the registration side of electric vehicles, which we did in that House bill that I was talking about a few years back. They pay about $150 more than everybody else does, but that is still not bringing them into an equitable position. The average car pays about $300 to $350 a year in tax. So that does need to be increased, and I'm sure as we look at it, if we go down that road again of adjusting the gas tax, we'll also make an adjustment on that. And, when we first started dealing with it, there was so few electric cars on the road that it didn't really matter. But now at this point, they're getting to be quite a few of them, so we will be adjusting that as we move forward. And the people that own those cars seem to understand that and don't have a problem with it.
I understand that, but on the other hand, the electric vehicles doesn't seem feasible to me with the drain on more responsibility for our electrical grid and the cutbacks that some of the greenies want away from the current plan, which is working and being very efficient and possibly going to green, solar, and wind energy. We could end up on the short side of electricity for any issue, let alone electric vehicles. Do you agree or not?
Oh, I agree with you. That's absolutely has to be part of the conversation. A lot of people that push those issues on electric cars, they go down the opposite side of it, and reality is the electric car takes more. It takes more off the table when it actually puts on it when it comes to that situation because of processing those batteries and then getting rid of them in the end. So I agree with you.
Well, you just touched on something, Joe, and I'm not trying to paint you into a corner, but it's an excellent part of the conversation. It's great to say, well, we're going to go electric, we're going to have these electric charging stations and everything else, but things wear out, things diminish, and things end up in the junk pile. We have not, as a society, as far as I know, come up with any way to take care and handle all the batteries and the mess from this proposed electric society. Do you agree with that or not?
I absolutely agree. In my book, you're far better off sticking with a gas vehicle or a diesel vehicle. As long as we make them more and more efficient, I think that you're way ahead by doing that over the battery-operated vehicles.
Joe, there was some talk here about, I think it was about 18 months ago, it really got into the fray, and I remember talking to Representative Fred Wood and Senator Kelly Anthon and others about how they were going to try to make more cutbacks in the time that people that are not commercial truck drivers, whether they owned horses or whether they were going to a rodeo or a horse show, whatever, or going to a cattle sale, they could only drive a certain amount of hours, and it seemed like more federal jurisdiction and state jurisdiction over what can be done and what can't be done. What's happening on this issue?
You're right. It's mostly federal that deals with that. Currently, we have an exemption per se for agriculture. There's 150 air miles. You don't have to meet all those requirements if you're staying within that, or if your vehicle's pre-2000. Then also you can stick with the paper documents as far as your logs go. With the current administration we have, they've been very helpful and they've understanding, and when we go and talk to them, they listen. And so we're all right. You know, in the future, I worry about another administration if they're going to be as friendly, where they don't understand our industry on the other side of the country. But currently, we're doing well, and I have talked to our congressman a few times about some problems with those rules that they write. I think the gross weight alone were 26,000 pounds. We have vehicles that hit that 26,000 pound mark when they're empty, just because it's gross. So I think it needs to be a real weight. And I think as long as we stay on top of that, we've had really good luck with this current administration.
Well, you know, we have with this current administration, but like you said, and I fear that if there is a change in administrations to a liberal loon type attitude, I mean, telling people like myself that are in the horse business that we can only drive X amount of miles and then we must legally shut down and almost unload $25,000 horses on the side of the road and tie them to a fence, that's lunacy.
I absolutely agree with you. It is, and that's the problem with the disconnect of people in Washington, D.C. not understanding people of the West and how we live our lives. And that's where the voter box, it matters, and people need to vote.
The problem is, Joe, is that how do you get people, whether it's here in the state of Idaho or nationwide, build a fire under them to realize what they're going to lose and how much more control is going to damage their business?
Well, that's an answer that everyone would like to know the question to. I don't know how to answer that. I think that the country's kind of getting to a point where they're starting to pay attention a little bit. As you watch what happens in this next election, I think it's going to be a telltale sign that I think, you know, conservative people are out doing their jobs and taking care of their families, and they don't always pay attention to what's going on in their government, right up until it reaches up and grabs them in the hind end. But I think that we're at that point where people are getting grabbed and they're starting to pay attention. At least that's my hope.
You know, Joe, another issue I'd like you to comment on, and it's kind of a passionate issue for me. I used to be in the grain business, and I know that the river ports are extremely vital in the movement of grain to the coast. And here we have the greenies again coming out and saying that we've got to breach the dams, etc., take them out. We need the barge traffic. We can't put all of this back on truck traffic, especially when you have those in our society that want to see the elimination of the truck traffic and private individuals on the highways. I mean, it's a catch-22, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And how are we going to address this issue of making sure that we have a good flow of grain to the coast, and it's going to be with the river and the truck traffic?
You know, I agree with you 100% on that. We're kind of playing tag team with you a little bit today. We have two other people lined up, and one of them is supposed to speak to you exactly on that, but the next one up is Representative Likely. And so if you don't mind, I'll just let them, as we move through, touch on that subject.
You know, Representative Joe Palmer, you're a good guy. Now, don't make yourself a stranger. Come back more often, all right?
I will. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. And now with us is virtually a neighbor of mine down here in the valley, Representative Lori Likely. Good morning, Lori. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I am doing well. I just filed for re-election first thing this morning, and so my quiver is full, and I'm moving down the road.
All right. I'm going to ask you the same thing I just talked to Joe briefly about. I am really, really concerned about a renewed effort by the Greenies to breach our dams and literally stop all the barge traffic and the river flow going to the coast. It would severely damage our wheat and other produce going to the coast. What are you doing as one of our representatives to stop this concept?
Well, that's a great question, and one that I wholeheartedly agree with you on. And again, just like Joe did, Representative Fred Wood is coming on next, and he told me, he said that one of his conversations with you today was going to be about the Columbia River system and, making certain that our governor to the west of us does not do anything to talk about, taking those dams out and jeopardizing the water that has made the Magic Valley so magic. So, I hate to hit it down the road, but I will tell you I have a seat at that table. but there have been others that have been at that table just a little bit longer, and I think probably positioned to talk about it a little more directly with you today, Zeb.
Real quick, Lori, what are the issues that are the ones that are most prominent for you that you really want to sink your teeth into at this legislative session? Quickly, tell me that.
Well, we're still working on how to fund Medicaid expansion. You know, Affordable Care Act was put down on the states, and then Medicaid expansion was passed last year. We're still identifying mechanisms to pay that. I'm at the table on really kind of talking with our counties about catastrophic and indigent funding. I was also at the table to really kind of look at this year removing the sales tax from those animals like your steers or those game animals that you take into your local processor that you own. We have been successful to get that out of the House, and we feel very confident that we'll get it out of the Senate. So after July 1st, if you take in that big old fat steer, you take in that elk, you should not have to pay sales tax on it after the 1st of July this year. You know, I think one of the biggest things I continue to focus on is the population growth, Zeb. That has some serious ramifications to not only our infrastructure, roads and bridges, which you were just talking with Representative Palmer about, but it's also got some implications to public land access. It's got implications to our educational system, emergency services, you know, things like that, too, that I think that we're going to have to be very cognizant of moving forward and really addressing how to invest in Idaho and, you know, take care of the folks in the rural communities across the Magic Valley. So those are some of the things that I'm at the table on. You know, it's taken me about 18 months here to kind of really get my legs underneath me to really develop those relationships and really identify how to move public policy in the state of Idaho and for all of my constituents across southern Idaho, you know, into the future.
Lori, I'm going to say this. I can see that, like you said earlier, you've got a lot of arrows in the quiver. We need to shoot some of those arrows, and I need to get you back on the program as soon as we can so we can talk more about them. Due to constraints on time in this segment, I think I'm going to say thank you very much to you, Lori Likely, our representative from over in the Jerome area, and I'll ask if Fred can jump in for a few minutes, and then we'll be ready to wrap it up. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I need to shoot Fred a quick text message, Zeb, because he's not sitting here with me, but he is on his way.
I appreciate it. Lori, so far at this legislative session, I'll ask you this question. Is it all that you thought it would be, or is it more mind-boggling? Have you got a handle on it? What do you think?
You know, as I think the Speaker is fond of saying, Zeb, it is a lot like sausage making. I guess I'm continually surprised that, you know, we have personal legislation that has not been fully vetted by the communities that it actually will, you know, take effect on, or those organizations or industries. You know, we see legislation that hasn't been fully vetted, and I guess I was pretty surprised at how that process is. I'm a firm believer that we've got to understand all the unintended consequences and the implications of each piece of legislation before we move forward. So I think that's what I'm most surprised about. But guess who just walked in the door? Representative Wood is now here, and you can ask him that question about making certain that our water is protected.
Oh, God bless you, Lori. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, we say good morning to an old friend of ours, and that's Representative Fred Wood. I feel like pretty soon you're going to tell me we've got the local janitor that's going to be running on the program. We've had a changing door here. This has been a great program with Representative Palmer and Representative Likely, and now an old friend, Representative Fred Wood. How are you, sir?
Good, Zeb. How are you this morning?
I'm good, but I'm nervous. I'll tell you why. The issue that I was just talking to Lori about a moment ago is that we see more of a concentrated effort on the movement with the greenies to take out the dams and breach the dams, and it would kill the dam traffic, or I should say the barge traffic to the coast with grain, and I think it would severely hurt the ag economics of our state of Idaho. Your thoughts?
Well, it certainly would, but there's good news. The Corps of Engineers and BPA, the two lead agencies for the Columbia River Systems Operation EIS, that was just published on Friday. Now, that's a draft EIS, and everybody has 45 days of which to comment on that. The Governor Salmon Work Group is meeting this Thursday at Fish and Game Regional Office in Nampa. I'm not going to attend the legislature with the Speaker's permission, and I'll be at that meeting. I have started to read the executive summary, but my understanding of it is that the preferred alternative is not to breach the dams, but to continue with the flexible spill program that was introduced here a couple of years ago. So I'll be on the program next week, and it'll just be me, and I'll give an update to you and the listeners about what is in that environmental impact statement, what the preferred alternative is, along with the other, I believe there are 6 alternatives now, but dam breaching is not the preferred alternative. So I'll have an update then, Zeb.
All right, now I've got limited time. I've got about 2.5 minutes left in this segment this morning, Fred, and I seriously want to get to this answer from you about Medicaid funding. Are there any inroads or any avenues being addressed as far as new money and ways to fund Medicaid funding?
Okay, so first of all, we anticipated that there would be 91,000 people signed up. So far, only about 65,000 have signed up. So we're significantly below what the anticipated level was. Secondly, we do have enough money in terms of offsets, et cetera, to fund that. There is not any new money that is going to be needed for that, even if we approach the 91,000. Which we're not anywhere near yet. I suspect it'll take at least a couple of years to get anywhere near that. So there is no need for any new money. We have a couple of bills that still haven't made it through the process yet to determine how much county funding is going to be involved in that. We are hearing the first bill on Friday. I don't know the outcome of that at this point in time. There's multiple questions on that bill. It's been rewritten 3 times. But the fact is it will be funded, and it's not going to require any new money or any new taxes or raising any money, new money anywhere.
Okay, I got 30 seconds left for this answer. Fred, so far from the middle portion of January till now at the legislative session, are things progressing the way you thought they would, or have there been some flies in the milk?
Actually, they're progressing a little bit better than I thought they would. The big issue of what to do about rules, nothing has been worked out, but there have been no fights associated with that. I think there's about a 99% chance that we will be sine-died on the 20th of March, which is our day. I think the animosity has largely passed. I think everybody's concerned. They don't want to be at the Capitol when COVID-19 gets here, and I'll have a little update for you on Monday about that also. From the Chief Epidemiology Officer and Infectious Disease Officer for the state, Dr. Christine Hahn.
Wonderful.
So we got a lot to talk about next Monday, Zep.
We'll look forward to it. Representative Fred Wood, Representative Lori Likely, and Representative Joe Palmer, God bless each and every one of you for being on the Idaho Legislative Update. Fred, I'll look forward to Monday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
You bet. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And the Idaho Legislative Update is brought to you by Handy Truck Lines at 400 West, 100 South of Paul. And, of course, they've been in business since 1928, serving Idaho and the surrounding states with the best of transportation of your goods and services. They deliver. Handy Truck Lines, thank you very much. Whoa, I'm late. Time for the weather. Wheels Scarrows Meats brings us the weather. Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657, or go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Delicious meats from the best. Scarrows Meats over in Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
We're going to be on a warming trend this week, considering we got some snow over the weekend. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting sunny skies today. A little bit of a breeze out of the west at about 15 miles an hour. Gusts as high as 25 miles an hour. Looking at a high of 44. Tonight, mostly clear skies, low of 27. Tomorrow, partly Mostly sunny and 50, expecting an overnight low of 31. Then the warming trend starts by Wednesday. Mostly sunny skies, 57. Looks like sunny skies and 60 for Thursday. Then we're going to be rolling in the upper 50s to low 60s for Friday and through the weekend. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And Don Scarrow and the crew wants you to remember the delicious meats at Scarrow's Meats, whether it's the different bacons or the tri-tips or the pork ribs or the bratwurst, whatever the case might be, it's all great for you and your family. Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Want to thank our major sponsor, and that's, of course, all 7 of the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers for being our major sponsor. Thank you for all you do, and believe me, they've got the best of all the tires for all your vehicles right now. These folks know tires. They know what you need for your driving conditions. So stop in and see any one of the 7 locations today with all the different tread designs, all the sizes for your vehicles. And don't forget the very best of brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, and people that really provide service to get you taken care of back on the road at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike in Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run. Oh boy, am I late. And remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. And the 4 words we really trust in the most, in God we trust. See you tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch. Have a great day.